Privatisation, eh? It's funny to think that all of our beloved franchises are going to the government this decade. Back in the mid-90s, the Tory government decided a privately owned railway was probably for the best. From there, it was goodbye BR, goodbye Intercity, and goodbye BREL. Now that the railway was privatised, operators were now free to go and order trains from overseas. There were many manufacturers to choose from, a nameable one being Adtrans. Hold that thought for a minute. The newly founded Chiltern Railways operator needed some new traction to work alongside their older BREL fleet on the Chiltern Main Line. Arriva, the owner of Chiltern Railways at the time, and to this day, came to Adtrans to design and build their new fleet, bringing about the Class 168-0, the first Turbostar. That's right, I'm making documentaries again. Enjoy! It all started with the Class 168 Clubman. Chiltern simply needed a more modern and fast DMU to work alongside the loco hauled trains in and out of Birmingham Moor Street. 5 units were ordered as a taster for reliability, and boy did they take off. The 168-0 was built to be similar to the Networker, with a similar cab design and bodywork. The train was designed so that every carriage had one powered bogie, allowing for an improved acceleration over the rest of the Chiltern fleet. They were ordered as 3-car sets, but were lengthened to 4 carriages in the next few years. Once the reliability of the Clubman was proved, Adtrans set out to design a more long-term unit. Less than a year after the release of the 168, the Class 170 was brought into existence on the Midland Main Line. The 170 had the exact same body design but with a more streamlined and modern cab, replacing the standardised BREL box lights with new ones. The Midland Main Line fleet consisted of 17 of the units, the first 10 of which were 3-car, with the remaining 7 being 2-car. Now that we're into it, I may as well explain each and every version of the 170 separately. Get ready, it's about to get complicated. The 170-1s on the Midland Main Line were used on services between St Pancras and many destinations in the East Midlands, right up until 2004, when the small fleet was replaced with Class 222 Meridians. The -1 fleet was fully cascaded to Central Trains, a sister company also operating elsewhere in the Midlands. This was the case until 2007, when the -1 fleet was leased off to Cross Country, where the fleet remains today. In 1999, Anglia Railways ordered a fleet of 170s for their services on the Great Eastern Main Line alongside the loco hauled trains. The new fleet consisted of 8 3-car trains and eventually 4 2-car trains for their services out of Norwich towards Cambridge and London. The fleet remained on the Great Eastern Main Line until 2019, when the units were temporarily cascaded to Wales, before finishing up in the East Midlands at the start of this year. The 170-3. Where it actually starts to get complicated. This 2-car version of the train was brought into existence with South West Trains in 2000 to be used in multiple with the Class 159 fleet. This didn't end up working out due to the fact that the 170s didn't have gangways, meaning that crew and food trolleys couldn't make it through the train without a bit of faffing about at every station. Later, in 2004, a further 4 3-car units were built for Hull trains. All 9 South West units were transferred to TransPennine Express in 2006 to operate between Selby and Hull because of the weight restrictions on the 185, while the 4 Hull trains units ended up in the hands of ScotRail. The 9 remaining TPE sets were converted to 168-3 for use on the Chiltern Main Line in 2016. The 170-4's existence is owed to Scotland, with the first 26 units showing up with National Express ScotRail in 1999, and the rest between 2003 and 2005 with SPTE, after their Class 157 project failed. As you can see, the SPTE units have the bigger lights, which brings up another topic, the fact that Bombardier took over all of Adtrans's train projects, but that's a story for another time. When First took over SPTE and ScotRail in 2004, 9 units were leased off to Southern as 171s, and every 170-4 was now under First's Iron Fist. 8 of the 171s eventually came back as 170s and put into service with EMR. Later, in 2018, when Arriva gained control of Northern again, they suddenly decided to obtain some 170s for work around York. Central Trains ordered a total of 33 Class 170-5 and 6 units immediately after privatisation. The units were used on routes out of Birmingham, Nottingham, Cardiff and more. Eventually, when the franchise was sold to Govia, the full Central fleet went to London Midland to operate in the same place, with the 2-car -5s operating short regional routes in the Midlands and the 3-car -6s operating as far south as Cardiff. When London Midland went out of business in 2017, the full fleet went to West Midlands Railway. However, this was short-lived, as they were slowly replaced by 172s and 196s. The Dash 5s eventually arrived in the hands of EMR, and the Dash 6s remained on the Cardiff routes, but this time with cross-country. In amongst all of that yap, I forgot to mention that the 168-1 came into existence as the first bulk Turbostar order of the Chiltern fleet, as a fleet of 3 and 4 car sets. I may have mentioned already that Bombardier took over the Turbostar and Electrostar projects in 2002, bringing us these new lights, and with that also the Class 171 and 168-2. The 168-2 was the second bulky Chiltern order, formed of more 3 and 4 car units. The 171, however, was GTR's solution to unelectrified lines on the South Central network. The 171 is nearly identical to the Class 170, but with Delna couplers instead of BSI, to allow emergency coupling with the Class 377. I'm not sure if this has ever come in handy, but it is what it is. The 171-2 has 2 or 3 cars that were previously 170-4s. The 171-4 has 4 cars and is also an old 170-4. By the way, both the Dash 2 and Dash 4 fleets were converted back to 170s, excluding one Dash 2 that's still in use on Southern. The Dash 7s and Dash 8s are quite complicated, so in simple terms, the original order began with 6 2-car 170-7s and 10 4-car 171-8s. In the fleet's life, there's been multiple moved coaches and couplers, so that the fleet now consists of 4 2-car 171-7s and 12 3-car 171-8s. Jeez, this is complicated. Don't worry, I don't think the fleet's going to change at all until they actually bother to electrify those lines. Ah, we're here. The 172. Now, most people wonder why the Class 172 exists at all, as surely it's just the Class 170. Well, no. They actually have lighter B5000 bogies, similar ones to the ones used with the 220s. Also, the 172 is the only Turbostar to have a gangway. So, they originated on the London Overground to work the Gospel Oak to Barking line. They replaced Silverlink's 150s and operated with them right up until the line was electrified, and the units were replaced by 710s. The 172-1 was ordered for Chiltern Railways to supplement the 168s, but since they weren't fitted with tripcock systems, they were eventually transferred to the West Midlands in 2021, along with the Dash Zeros. The Dash 2 and Dash 3 sport the same design as the rest of the 172s, but have a very, very different cab. The main way to distinguish these units is the front gangway. They entered service with London Midland mainly to replace the 153s on the Snow Hill lines, and have stayed around there ever since. In conclusion, not a single Turbostar has been scrapped, mainly because they're far too new and far too good. I'll be honest, the seats are really nice. I do hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please consider liking or subscribing. I am also quite prone to misinformation, so if you want to let me know about any mistakes, go ahead, I'm not stopping you. You're watching Will Rides Trains, and for that, I thank you. Goodbye.